when and I'm kind of known for like my proactive calls, like amongst directors and, doing 25 proactive reach outs a day. And so part of it came from like the 21-day booking blitz. But when I was at leadership one year, I went to a class, you know how like when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I went to a class and I heard National Sales Director Janice Moon. I don't know what she talked about for 45 minutes, but all I heard her say was, I went home when I wanted to do something and make something happen, and I did 50 reach outs a day. And I went, but there was something about it that just struck me. I knew I couldn't do 50. I wasn't willing to do 50. That would stop me dead in my tracks. But I could do 25. And so I started doing just hash marks on my date book every single day, 5 days a week of 25 reach outs. Now, when I started it, it was 12 or 13. Then it was 15. Like every day, I really, 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 really stretched my brain to get to 25. But I also knew it would be a process and it would be a system. It would be a commitment. It would be a system. It would be a focus. And she shared results that happened for her. But what I knew is that just like if you take $1 every day, $10 every day, and you put it $10 today and $10 tomorrow and $10 the next day and $10, you got $50 at the end of the week. And if you leave it in there and the next week you do $10, $10, 10, now you got 100, right? Like so that investment, that first $10 isn't all that big and it doesn't really buy a lot, but consistency is key in this business. And what I see happen is sometimes I see people zoom and eke. They have a really great week and then they don't do anything. Or they have a really great party and then they don't do anything. Or they have a conversation with me and they get a lot of activity for 24 hours and then they don't do anything. And you guys, it just doesn't work in this business, right? Like because this business is all about consistency. As boring as it might sound, consistency is the key. So I really want to encourage you guys to let's create April being our big momentum month, our big like what if what if we had a big Mo, I'm using momentum, I'm calling it short, Big Mo initiative for 21 days? What if you decided to prove me wrong? What if you decided to buy in? What if you decided that this might make a difference in your business or just play the game to see? Okay. Now, I'm not going to suggest you do 25 a day. That's just where I was at. I was a director. I mean, I am a director, and I just wanted that was and remember she said 50, and I wasn't like I couldn't wrap my brain around 50, but I could wrap my brain around getting to 25. And it took me probably a good 2 weeks to hit the 25. And I will tell you that some of the last 22, 23, 24, 25, like each day were, I'm going to say, pathetic reach outs. And what I mean by that is they were low hanging fruit. They were easy. They were just a throw in the wind. They were, you know what I mean? Like they were just
Get
so
it
I
done.
had the win that I could hash mark, I did it, right? So for me, I hash marked. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the top of my date book. I still do that. And that gives me that dopamine hit. That gives me the win. Of course, I want results for that. And I have expectation for results from that. But I know that if I have a day that I get that done, I did my job. I did the proactive work. I did the momentum building. I put money in the bank that day. Even if there was no money transaction, even if there was no new booking, right? Like, even if I didn't see a result, I knew and I trusted the process of planting a seed, the process that if she had done this and it worked, that it would work. So I'm gonna, I mean, Louise is a great example of that, right? And so I'm gonna ask you to let me do that, Louise. So tell me, we talked about 21 day. Like how long ago, or the questions I asked you, just answer those few questions, like 3 tips of what it's done for you, why you keep doing, because you do 15 a day.
Yes.
I think you started with
Yes.
5, then you went to 10,
Mhm.
and then just recently I challenged you, like, what if you went to 15, right? Okay.
And
So,
that was just before I had my that's just before I had an amazing week. And it's not because of me, it's just because of being willing to make the calls. So I was
Right.
thinking as you were sharing, Debbie, I remember you talking about that at first. And my thought was, well, I get that. I get that. That sounds great for you. Same thing. I couldn't imagine doing 25, but I just thought, okay, I hated hearing trust the process. I hate, I felt like,
Right.
okay, I don't, but I felt like I needed to do something different to generate a different level
Right.
of activity. And so that was the thing that I did. But the biggest, I've been consistent since you shared that with me and what it did for you, for your business. But I also, I think I mentioned to you, I happened to talk with Cami Otten at some event. And we were just talking about, you've said it before, doing this for the win, for the dopamine drip that you get, and really just that confidence that comes from doing what you said you were going to do, from me doing
Mhm.
what I said I was going to do. And I just trusted that if I did enough of something, that something was going to happen. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't, I still don't, but just trust that if I make the contacts. And, I was smiling a little bit ago when you said, on some days it's like the easy calls or the people that, oh, I don't really think anything, but you never know. So just saying this is what I'm going to do and doing it's made a big difference. And then the thing that I changed that made an even bigger difference was I used to wait, I had a full day working wise. And I always felt like, okay, if I'm in the car driving, like from wherever to, wherever, I don't want to be talking on the phone and not paying attention to my driving or not paying full attention to what somebody's telling me. So I was making most of my calls in the evening, and I'd come home and I'd be tired and I wouldn't feel like it. And my energy wasn't always the best, but it was an easy out to say, okay, I'm not going to do it. I'm too tired to do this. And when I changed, well, first of all, I made the commitment, so I stuck with it, however stinky it might have felt doing it. But when I changed and started to see, can I do this in the morning and just make the calls before everybody gets started with their day? I didn't care if I actually talk to a person. I was actually pleasantly surprised if I did, but I just leave the messages and then I'd follow up. I do whatever I needed to afterwards. But I knew, ooh, I got them done. And what felt like a weight,
Mhm.
another weight. We all have that stuff that we feel like we get to do during the day, but it just became easier, it just became lighter, and I got it done quickly, and it felt great. So that made it easier to follow up then with people who wanted me to follow up with them.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I love that. No, I think that's so brilliant. You first of all, you realize that your energy wasn't as high, at certain times. And so then it's dreadful. And people are going to
And it
hear that or
was.
feel that. Even if you're texting, they feel that dread, right? And so to
Right.
figure out how can I get this done when my energy is high, not worrying about if other people were available or not available, or if it was too early, or if they were at work, or like all the excuses that we tell our brain in reaching out to people, right? Like
Mhm.
it was when you
I
could be
excel at those.
what? No, you excel
I
at
said
those. I
I
love it.
excel at those.
And like think about how powerful you empowered yourself because they were done. Like early in the morning or whatever time got to say, I did it. Like I won today. I
Mhm.
won the day today, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, check it off the list. So I love that
Mhm.
that you figured that out, right? Because I think there's a lot of people who work a full-time job that do Mary Kay and they, for whatever reason, we put it uh, low on the list of priorities instead of high priority in your Mary Kay by putting it in there and getting it done, right? Like whether it's to just get it done and early,
Mhm.
but like when your energy is good. So it can be any time. Maybe somebody's energy is better like noon to 2 o'clock, right? And they have that window or whatever. Maybe your energy is good at night, right? Like everybody has a different rhythm that works best, but I love that you figured that out and you were willing to change it and working a full-time job to not use that as I can't figure that out. So let's get a little technical. Do you do all your calls at one time? And is it like 7:38 in the morning? Is it 9 o'clock in the morning? You mix it in. It's different. You just know you want to be done in the morning.
I would prefer to be done in the morning. I'm not every day, but I
Yeah.
try to be as close to finished as I can. So for me, with what I do, there's usually something that I need to finish up documentation wise from the day before. And so I've tried to get that done in the morning, not the whole morning. I mean, like, if I wake up at whatever time I wake up, I'll spend X amount of time doing that, and then I save the calls usually or the texts. I'm not texting when I'm driving, but I'll save the
Right.
calls for when I am driving because usually I have at least a half an hour to 45 minutes. And what I found is that, if I'm sitting in traffic, I can call. If it takes a little longer or maybe not quite as long, I
Right.
can make a call or two. Maybe I don't have them all done, but I get them done. And I wouldn't say I'm a like leap out of bed full of energy kind of person, but it feels great to have them done in the morning. And then if I want to make more calls or I want to follow up because people have said they've responded in some way,
Hmm.
yeah, give me a call or, then I have time. I can do that like later that
Right.
evening. And
Yep.
yeah, so it has worked out well. It's
I
worked
love
out
that.
well. But I'll be the first to say I don't do it the same way every day because
Yeah. But
either
that's
I have other
okay.
stuff or I don't feel like
Right.
it, or so I just try and zero in on, okay, I'm not always going to feel like it, but when can I get this done? Because that's what
Yep.
I'm going to do today. And so
Right.
that feels really good. Whatever happens from it, that feels
Right.
really good to say, yep, I did
Exactly.
it.
Yes. And are you preparing who you're calling the night before, the day before? You have just kind of a running list because you're like, okay, I talked to her Monday. She said follow up. I'm going to do that on Wednesday. Like, do you keep how do you kind of track that, Louise? Or
Huh?
how do you find the people to call, right? Like, so you're not calling the same people all the time.
Right. Well, when I first started, that's what I felt like I was doing, and
Hmm.
I didn't want to do that. I didn't want people to say, oh no, here
Right.
she comes again. She's trying to,
Right.
whatever, she's trying to, whatever. So I ask, customers that I have, I ask people for referrals, and that's how I get names. I usually stick with after I've made a sale to someone, I follow up in a couple of days, I follow up in a couple of weeks, and I follow up in 2 months. And it's not exact, but it's
Right.
close enough that that's just the way that I kind of remind myself. And I just use nothing fancier. I've kind of done different things over time, but I just use a spiral bound notebook and I will write down and I kind of have stuff marked, or I have a couple of like printed, computer generated calendars for months. And then I'll just write down the names of the people that, I want to call. But every night before I go to bed, hopefully I've done it before then, but I'll write down and make sure I have people's names and contact information. So then, whenever I have time, like I said, I'm not
Right.
texting when I'm in the car, but I can make a phone
Right.
call when I'm in the car.
Yep.
And that makes it a lot easier. So as
I
long
love
as
it.
I have that with me, I feel like I can do, it's whatever I choose. And if I
Right.
haven't done it, well, then that's my own
Right.
fault and
Yeah.
decision, not to do it and get it done. But that's what I do. Just I used to use
Perfect.
index cards, and I thought, okay, I don't want to carry around 10 zillion index cards. So
Right.
I'm just like one per day, for the people that I was going to call. So I just used the spiral bound, the cheap.
Yep.
Now they're maybe what, 25 cents if you get them on sale
Right.
around the beginning of school time. That's what I use.
Yep. I love it. I love it. So preparing the night before works good for you for having a list of at least a starter list of who you want to contact every day.
Uh-huh.
And then having that so you can work from anywhere. You can be at the doctor's, you can be
Yes.
getting your hair done, you can be getting your nails done. You can like so you're using your nooks and crannies of time, not necessarily lots of time. Okay, so how you're doing 15 a day. And I know you might not be doing them all at one time. And of course, if someone answers the phone and but on your proactiveness of it, how much time do you think those calls or texts to do 15 a day take you? Even if it's spread out, like minutes.
Uh-huh. Well, this is the funny thing. When I used to dread it and put it off, like, I don't have the time to do it. It's going to take me too long, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what I
Yep.
thought it was going to take me. But when I realized, you and I talked a little bit about this when I started doing it, when I started making the calls in the morning, I would be done in maybe at the most 25 minutes.
Yep.
And that wasn't necessarily 25 minutes, consecutively, but
Yeah.
that's about all it would take me. And then maybe I would
Right.
have some following up, either texts or calls later, whenever in the day.
Right.
But as I'd have replies from people, it kind of helped me direct my energy, and what I was going to be doing if
Right.
I had needed to follow up at night or even the next day. So it just made it easier.
I
But
love
yeah,
that.
no more. I was surprised,
So we
20 minutes
overthink
and I
it.
got it all done.
Yeah, and I say we always like we were thinking about Mary Kay 24/7, but we're really actively doing it like either zero or very little time, right? Like the
Hmm.
so 25 to 30 minutes to get 15 in, right? So if
Hmm.
you start with 5, it might take you 10 minutes. If you're going to start with 10, it might take you 15, 20 minutes. If you're going to do 15, right? And so just thinking, okay, what is the commitment you can make to yourself? And with that, Louise, like you started to have appointments on your date book. You started to consistently do $300 in sales a week, like
Hmm.
consistently, you know what I mean? Then, 400. Now it's really about 500 or more. Like just, and as you upped it, right? Like consistently having sales because you're consistently doing the reach outs. And there's those weeks where maybe it drops because life, like crazy, just the seeds don't blossom. But then there's those weeks, and we've heard you say many times, I don't know where it came from. All of a sudden, I had an extra $300 like just drop out of the sky. Well, it's not dropping out of the sky.
Hmm.
It's because the seeds that you've planted and all the stuff that you've done. And so, first of all, I just want to applaud you for that consistent effort, for planting the seeds,
Thank
for
you.
trusting the process, and for being proof that this system, this formula, this simplicity of consistency really builds a Mary Kay business. So whether it's 5, 10, or 15, I think any consultant, right? Like it depends what your results you want. But even starting with 5, it's not too little. But that consistency of doing it at least 5 days a week, doing it for at least 21 days, because probably I'm just gonna say this is there's not gonna be any real results or any big momentum for 7 to 10 days.
Mhm.
Now you might get some results, you might get some bookings, you might get some sales, but to create the momentum of consistency, it's probably going to be at 7 or 10 days. Would you agree, Louise? Like you have to kind of
I
build.
would, I
Yeah,
would. And if for some reason, I've had spurts where just it doesn't feel like things are happening, even with, well, I would say maybe when I was making like 10 to 12 calls a day. And when you kind of challenged me, well, what about upping that? And what about 15? Could you do 15? And, I think it's just the magic of the numbers. I've said this to you a
mhm,
couple times. Do you know? I mean, I don't know who's going to say, "Oh, yes, I've
right.
been waiting for you to call," or whatever, whatever. But you'll never know if you don't make the call, the connection in some way, shape, or form. And, you'll also go through people. I used to excel at magical thinking. Like if I don't call her, then she's not a no. Maybe she's a yes, even though I haven't called
Mm,
her and asked her anything. And so I don't do that anymore. And I do whatever with those names. But yeah, the scary people or the people who just aren't responding, whatever. I mean,
right.
whatever.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I love that. I love that. So, yeah, so I'm just gonna like challenge whoever else listens to this later, but Jamie, since you're on tonight, is to pick a number, 5, 10, or 15, and be part of the big momentum for 21 days. Make Mary Kay a priority, make the commitment to reach out and to build that because that is what it takes, right? To build a Mary Kay business consistently. Not the high highs and the low lows, right? Because I always said if you have $1,000 week and you don't do anything else for the next 3 weeks, it was like having a $250 week for
Mhm.
4 weeks, right? And so it's that consistent, boring, 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 but that consistent, just like you go to a boring, boring job that you might not like to get that boring paycheck at the end of 2 weeks. I mean, it's the same concept, right? Except for you get to create momentum in your business. You get to up it. You get to plan, prepare, succeed, and create something new for you. So thank you, Louise, for being a great example, for
Yeah.
having proof that this works. And yeah, I just think that we should be having some big momentum going. So the Big Mo initiative for the next 21 days, starting today.